During the holidays, we all spend our time doing different things, usually visiting our families, spending time with the people we love, trying to clean the workshop because it hasn't been cleaned in quite a significant amount of time, and then getting distracted by projects you really should have finished 2 years ago. I'm working on these carvings today. I really should have finished them 2 years ago. They were for woodworking programs, and I was quite ambitious, went large, didn't finish in time. When I went back to my workshop, I set them aside, and I haven't touched them since. It's relaxing to work on these projects. You can really just get yourself a cup of coffee and a nice chocolate bar and just work away hours at a time with some soft music. The problem is, I forgot to sharpen all of my carving gouges and they're all getting dull. I don't currently have a good system to sharpen them, so I'm just going to be making a quick little trick with MDF to sharpen all of these chisels and gouges really quickly and really well for pretty much no money. So this is what I'm going to be making to sharpen my gouges. The MDF is not my idea. Some people have done this before. It's actually quite a common trick, but I like to add the shapes that I have here. So essentially I have a little dip here, then two outer radii here, and a flat spot here. So they all have their own purpose. So I can do the main radius here to sharpen gouges. That's the one I use the most. Then if I have chisels that I want a flat edge, I can do it on this part here. And here I make sure the bolt here is hollow, so it's like recessed from this outer wheel. And that way I can do things that are a lot larger. So essentially I could sharpen a plain blade on here, which I do sometimes if I have like one of those curved plane blades, which I don't do very often, but it is the best way I found for sharpening them so far. So that's what I've been using it for. Then I have the two outer radii, which are to remove any burrs from the inside here. So sometimes I'll be just cutting here, or after I go in the belt grinder and put my main edge on, I'm going to go here and remove the burrs on the outside. This works really well with a fairly fast RPM, so I think this spins between 2,000 to 3,000 RPM, which is your typical bench grinder, and it works great, and it doesn't heat up too much as long as you're not removing too much material. So you just touch it on there for 10 seconds and nothing's going to heat up, which is really nice. If you're just making the wheel for a typical bench grinder, you only have to put a 1/2 inch hole through it. So this whole setup with the clamping on my drill press is really only because I'm putting a lot of different concentric holes for the type of grinder I'm using. The way I sharpen my gouges usually is to create the primary bevel and really the main shaping. I'm going to use a belt grinder like this. So either I go here and I turn it this way, that way I can keep a very steady angle, or I actually go on the dip here between the metal plate and the wheel, so it's a little bit flexible, and that way I can easily keep a very constant radius. So it works quite well with both ways. You really want the grinder to go to a wide angle because carving gouges have a very steep angle of attack. So if you guys want to do it the same way I do, this is my bench grinder, which I actually have plans for now on my other YouTube videos, so I'll put a link in the end. It's quite an easy bench grinder to make. It's really just plywood, nothing too complicated, but it works really, really well for sharpening stuff like this because that's what I designed it for. Actually, so once I'm done shaping the blade, I'm gonna go to the honing compound and I'm just gonna hone it once all around the edge, make sure it touched just a little bit everywhere. And that way it's gonna have a really shiny edge and it's perfectly sharp. It'll be very, very sharp. And the cool thing is that I don't have to go back to the belt grinder every time I want to sharpen it. So I can actually just go back to the polisher and just really polish that edge. I can do that up to 20 times before I go back to the bench grinder and remove more material.